Rosenhaus's statement here. Now that Antonio is a free agent, we are focused on the future, and I will immediately work on signing him to a new team. Antonio is looking forward to a new beginning. Okay,
his business booming.
Man, it has been a morning here. But yes, when you have $30 million of base salary that can be voided because of those fines, I think it, of course, would elicit a reaction. And I don't know if it's quite everyone would react the same way that Antonio Brown did. Yeah. But yeah, this is a big deal. And Garafolo, like what? I see you over there.
I'm working on a guess, okay? I'm working on a guess. I mean, for some reason, this number isn't working. That's why I'm typing away furiously.
To M. Rob's point, though, he was saying, oh my goodness, I'm drawing a blank. But you were saying, I know I jumped in on you, Jeezy, and I totally lost.
We're good, man. We're good.
Yeah, that's all right. Here, it's going to come back. It's going to come back in. That's what happens when you've been on the air for how many hours? I don't know.
We've been on for 3+. I'm trying to get
3.5. Okay.
Our guest is available. Should be joining us any second now. Hopefully.
I kind of feel bad for AB though, man. To a degree. I mean, to a degree. So much talent.
People are going to come at you.
I know they are. I know they. Look, I'm not saying he shouldn't have been reprimanded in any way, but I feel bad for him because at the end of the day, he didn't act like this before he got the money. So you know he understands how to be right, how to be a teammate, how to operate in the business culture of the National Football League. And then all of a sudden something changed once he got the big money. And so you kind of feel bad. I just hope he's good mentally. I hope his mental state is good. I hope his mental health is okay. Because this does not sound like a person thinking rationally. You just gave up $30 million and you controlled everything about it.
And I was going to say, your point was that you can't act this way and not expect repercussions, right? Along the way, though, do you think the Raiders kind of not egged them on, but encouraged the behavior early on? Because it wasn't like iron fist rule.
Well, I think what Charlie Casserly was saying,
I don't know what they're doing. I'm going to
Charlie was like, John Gruden should have been at the front of this the entire time. He should have been the one doling out the discipline and making sure that everything kind of stayed on point. And it just doesn't seem, from whatever we've seen so far, it doesn't seem like he's the one that's been doing that. It's been Mayock all along.
Yeah, it seems like Mayock is getting thrown under the bus right now. He's the fall guy.
John's been in love with AB for years, watching him in the booth. And so as a coach, just like Pete Carroll, when Pete Carroll first got into the league, it was numerous guys he kind of went after in free agency because he wanted them in college and might have missed out on them. A notable guy is Percy Harvin. I can remember Pete calling me. I'm already in the league, and I knew Percy growing up, and Pete was like, hey, get him out here on a visit, get him out here on a visit. I can remember that. And then all of a sudden, he's in Seattle on a big money deal, and I don't even know if he was really worth it at that point, but he overreached. AB.
Different situation. I was on that team.
Totally different situation.
I was on that team. I was a captain on that team, so that's a whole different situation.
Totally different situation, but I'm just saying as far as coaches wanting something for so long and not having the chance to get them, Cliff Kingsbury got Kyler Murray, wanted him in high school. So these coaches, they follow these players, and they almost are fans just as much as the fans are fans.
But you can't want a player to the detriment of your team.
And to your point, that's what John's been doing. You said he's not getting in front of, because he wants to still have that relationship with AB that, hey, man, you can come talk to me, man. Like, we boys. Mike Mayock doing that. That's not me. I don't feel that way. You see this playbook I got for you, man? I got 1,000 plays in here for you. That's John. And so because he's trying to be a friend, like a parent, as a parent, sometimes you can't be a friend. I tell my kids, hey, I love you. You might not like me right now, but when you get older, you're going to understand that I did the right thing for you to be the person I want you to become.
So if you're a player on a team that might be interested in Antonio Brown, what are you thinking? What are you thinking if Antonio Brown ends up coming to your team?
Well, I mean, I ain't gonna lie.
I know what he gonna say.
Yeah, because I was on that team when they were inquiring about Percy. I got a call,
oh
too.
My God, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Hey, Mike, do you think Percy would be good for this team? Can we handle him? And the difference being, we had a group of elders on that team that was like, oh, no, we got him. Come on in. I know how to talk to him. Who is that? On the Oakland Raiders team? AB walked into the door being one of the older players, being a veteran. And so I just...
Yeah, when it's Jonathan Abrams that's doing it, when you have
Come on, man, a rookie?
Yeah.
They're saying he's the adult in the room? That locker room is messed up if that's the case.
Yeah, yeah. And so, Colin, you asked what kind of team. It's a team that has either a coach that garners the utmost respect or a locker room with veterans that, at the end of the day, I don't care if you don't like me. I'm about getting this team where it needs to be, not about making you like me and be your friend. And if, as a player, you can't respect that,
And look, I'm not trying to throw shade at all at that locker room because I think there are really good veterans in there. I think Derek Carr is a leader. I think that actually when we hear Vontaze Burfict is actually holding Antonio Brown back. I mean, there are guys in that locker room that I think are leaders, but when it's a situation that Antonio Brown is putting them in, I think it's just beyond a lot of control there.
But and to a point, Colleen, it's hard to lead as a player when the message coming from down from up high is something different. Yep. Like, I can't hold you accountable if I got a C on my chest. It doesn't matter if I got a C on my chest. I can't hold you accountable if the head coach isn't holding you accountable.
You got a point there.
And prior to the fines we actually had documented, we were just thinking AB was coming and going as he chose. And as a veteran player, I'm like, Coach, you want me to say you hadn't said nothing to him? And that's kind of how it works. Like, I can't police you if the coaches aren't policing you too.
Right.
Agreed. Did you figure it out? You got your stuff straight? You good?
We had a guest join.
We are moments away from a special
They were having
guest.
issues dialing out, so we dialed in instead, and we're working on that. We'll get it up in a second here. But it's just been a wild day. And okay.
Oh,
Easy.
without
Let's
further
go.
ado.
Let's do it.
Antonio Brown's agent, Drew Rosenhaus, now joining us on the phone, correct? On the phone?
Yeah, I'm here, guys.
Oh, beautiful. Drew, thank you very much. We saw your statement that you put out there now that you're going to start working on Antonio Brown's next team, which teams are allowed to contact you starting at 4 o'clock Eastern today. How did this situation get to the point where the Raiders decided that it was is he okay? I mean, are there any concerns? Because nobody's been with him closer through this entire summer.
On the fly, we wish you guys the best of luck as you look for a new partner there for Antonio Brown. But it is amazing that in the first time in his career, Antonio Brown is an unrestricted free agent, and it is the start of an NFL season this weekend. One game has already been played. The rest of the league just waiting, and he is right there on the market.
Yeah, he's right there on the market, and we can say all we want to say. First of all, I thought Drew did a good job answering the questions, standing up for his client. But Antonio Brown's going to get another job at some point. We don't know when, but he will. And I just keep saying it, and I have to say it again. We keep reinforcing the fact that talent trumps character. It does not matter. As long as you can go out there and do the job, you'll continue to get a job.
And agents get a bad rap, but their job is to defend the client and whatever the client wants to the best of your ability to go out there and get. And that's what Drew was talking about here. And again, he was on Hard Knocks. The camera caught him saying, okay, maybe we didn't handle that situation the best when he left camp and then came back. But despite that, he's got to go now fight for him to get another job here somewhere else. It's going to be challenging because the money's going to be one thing, the fit's going to be another thing, the preconditions, okay? You can come play for us, but bing, 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 bing. You know, it's going to be interesting.
It's going to be a ton of buts. And that's the question I want Drew to have. I hope AB understands, because all of these situations in Pittsburgh
that he created,
he's known as this kind of guy now. A lot of teams are already removing him from that. Then a lot of teams are saying, okay, we still like him, but for a certain price, right? And I know he was the highest paid receiver at one point in this league. I know he's a great receiver, a top 2, 3, 4 receiver in this league. But I also can guarantee you right now he will not get top 10 receiver money, period, because no team will trust him. No team will trust him.
And if he gets that $30 million from the Raiders that he surely believes he's still owed, that's not that big of a deal. And you did hear, I mean, Drew didn't answer the question directly, but clearly
they're going to go into agreement.
He called it a possible legal situation. So there's going to be grievances on top of lawsuits, on top of whatever. It has to start with a grievance within the CBA. And the mediator at times in the past that the NFL has used, we'll see who winds up mediating, a lot of times come down on the side of the player. You know, I understand what the language is, but there's a lot of gray area in the language of the CBA and the contract here.
And look, we heard last night what could have been John Gruden's voice on a recorded phone call with Antonio Brown. What I wish is out there is a recorded phone call between Antonio Brown and Drew Rosenhaus on everything that has gone down. Because to hear what is being said and what is actually being felt right now between Antonio Brown and Drew Rosenhaus about this entire situation, I think is something that we're all wondering wondering about. But Tom Pelissero, we have him coming back in again. And Tom, you just heard Drew Rosenhaus on the air talking to us. So what more can you add to this situation that is developing in front of our eyes?
Well, one thing I want to clarify is that NFL owners actually passed a rule change back in March that says that if a vested veteran is cut, he's not subject to waivers, and the team publicly announces his release, teams don't have to wait until after 4 p.m. Eastern to contact him. They can do that immediately. So while you guys were tying up Drew's phone for 10 minutes there, people could have been calling him about Antonio Brown. And, of course, any team that has any interest in Antonio Brown is going to have a lot of homework that they're going to need to do. I have texted probably half the league over the past hour here, have not gotten a whole lot of people who sounded excited about the prospect of bringing in Antonio Brown just because of everything that they have witnessed, going back to Week 17 with the Steelers last year when Brown disappeared. They couldn't get a hold of him, and he ended up missing what could have been a pivotal game. I've had people in the league say they don't think that Brown is ever going to play again. I have just had a coach text me a couple of minutes ago and say, how long until Antonio Brown is in New England? Well, those calls can start happening to Drew Rosenhaus right now. We'll see exactly how this all plays out. And a key point that Mike Garafolo did a good job of bringing up here is what happens with a potential grievance over the nearly $30 million in guarantees that the Raiders informed Brown that he had voided when they sent him that fine letter that also said he was being disciplined, being fined over $215,000 for the altercation with Mike Mayock last week. They said that voids the guarantees. There is a potential fight that could take place going forward here. If Antonio Brown thinks he's going to get paid, you could end up in a situation where it doesn't matter what he gets from a new team. He could play on the minimum, assuming that he's going to get those checks from the Raiders. Now, how likely that is, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not that familiar with what potentially could be argued here, but certainly you could see a scenario where Antonio Brown might go, you know what, to restore my reputation, it's not about the money here. I've got to get into the right fit. Those are the conversations that will take place between Antonio Brown, Drew Rosenhaus, and any teams that are willing to wade into right now what looks like pretty treacherous waters.
Yeah, he has to do some, I think, PR right now just to kind of get himself back into a situation where teams are really, really going to want to deal with him and want to have him on their team and in their locker room. Tom, thank you. And look, this has been just a roller coaster, just the last few days, but especially today. And I can't imagine how it's been for the Raiders in that locker room. The fact that they are relieved. That's what we heard from David Carr when he was on, that there's a sense of relief now because they've had their better practices without Antonio Brown in the building. So you just have to wonder if they're going to be a better team without him. Exactly.
But it's practice. They haven't gone into a game without, I mean, again, Antonio Brown's the mechanism for your offense that allows you, the defense, to sit up all night and wonder how we're going to stop that game.
Right, but it's also part of the refrain that I heard in East Rutherford when the Giants traded Odell Beckham, that they'll be better without him because now we can run the offense more smoothly. Same thing we said about Antonio Brown with Pittsburgh. Don't have to worry about feeding him the ball all these times. So when they say that practices were better,
right,
there was less talent on the field. Let's be crystal clear about that. But they think, you know what, this will just let us operate as a unit instead of worrying about just one guy.